Childhood of Princess Elizabeth. Princess Elizabeth Alexandra Mary was born on April 21, 1926, at 2:40 a.m. at 17 Bruton Street in Mayfair, London. She was the first child of Prince Albert, Duke of York, later King George VI, and his wife, Lady Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, later Queen Elizabeth the Queen Mother. Her father was the second son of King George V and Queen Mary, and her mother was the youngest daughter of Scottish aristocrat Claude Bowes-Lyon, 14th Earl of Strathmore and Kinghorn. Elizabeth and her younger sister, Margaret Rose, spent their early childhood in a large house in London called 145 Piccadilly. They did not go to school like other children, but were taught at home by a governess, Marion Crawford. The governess, known as Crawfie, taught the girls reading, writing, arithmetic, history, geography, and music. She also taught them about the royal family and their duties. Elizabeth and Margaret loved to play games, ride horses, and go swimming.
Princess
They also
had
enjoyed
turned
visiting
18.
their grandparents,
Her teenage
King
years
George
had been
V
against the
and
backdrop
Queen
of the
Mary
Second World
at
War.
Buckingham Palace.
Elizabeth was determined to do
In
her bit for the war
1936,
effort.
Elizabeth's uncle, King Edward VIII, abdicated the throne to marry American divorce E. Wallace Simpson. This made Elizabeth's father king, and she became the heir presumptive. Elizabeth's life changed dramatically after her father became king. She began to undertake public duties, such as visiting hospitals and schools. She also learned about the government and how to run the monarchy. Elizabeth and Margaret were evacuated from London to Windsor Castle during World War II. They continued their studies and also did their part to help the war effort. Elizabeth joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service, a TS, where she learned how to drive and repair cars. After the war, Elizabeth continued her education and traveled extensively. She also began to prepare for her role as queen. In 1947, she married Philip Mountbatten, a former Prince of Greece and Denmark. They had 4 children: Charles, Anne, Andrew, and Edward. Elizabeth was crowned queen on June 2, 1953. She has reigned for over 70 years, making her the longest reigning British monarch in history. She is also the longest reigning queen regnant in world history. Elizabeth has been a symbol of stability and continuity for the British people throughout her reign. She has also been a strong advocate for the Commonwealth of Nations. She is a popular and respected figure around the world. Elizabeth II's childhood was a happy one, despite the challenges of the times. She was loved and supported by her family, and she was prepared for her future role as queen. Her young life. Like many other young people in Britain, she was eager to do her part to help the war effort. In 1942, she turned 18 and was granted permission by her father, King George VI, to join the Auxiliary Territorial Service, a TS, the women's branch of the British Army. Elizabeth trained as a driver and mechanic at the ATSU, No. 1 Mechanical Training Center in Camberley, Surrey. She learned how to drive and maintain a variety of vehicles, including trucks, jeeps, and ambulances. She also received training in first aid and map reading. After completing her training, Elizabeth was assigned to the First Aid Post Pool, where she drove ambulances and provided medical assistance to injured soldiers. She also worked as a mechanic, repairing vehicles that had been damaged in battle. Elizabeth served in the ATS for 2 years, until the end of the war in 1945. She was promoted to the rank of junior commander, the equivalent of captain. Her service in the ATS was a source of great pride, and she often spoke about it in later years. Elizabeth's time in the army helped her to develop a strong sense of duty and discipline. It also gave her a first-hand experience of the hardships and sacrifices that people make during wartime. These experiences would stay with her throughout her life and would inform her approach to her role as queen. After the war, Elizabeth served in the British Army as an honorary colonel of several regiments. She also remained a strong supporter of the armed forces, and she has visited troops on many occasions. Elizabeth II's service in the army is a testament to her courage, determination, and sense of duty. She is the only British monarch to have served in the armed forces during wartime, and her example has inspired generations of young people. Her throne. On February 6, 1952, Princess Elizabeth Alexandra Mary was on an official tour of Kenya with her husband, Prince Philip, when she received the news that her father, King George VI, had died. She was just 25 years old at the time. Elizabeth immediately returned to London and was proclaimed queen by her Privy and Executive Councils. She was crowned at Westminster Abbey on June 2, 1953, in a ceremony that was watched by millions of people around the world. Elizabeth's accession to the throne came at a time of great change and uncertainty. The world was still reeling from the effects of World War II, and the Cold War was just beginning. Elizabeth's youth and inexperience made her a somewhat controversial choice for the Queen, but she quickly proved herself to be a capable and dedicated leader. Over the next 70 years, Elizabeth II reigned through many challenges, including the decolonization of Africa, the troubles in Northern Ireland, and the rise of the European Union. She has also witnessed the changing role of the monarchy in modern society. Through it all, Elizabeth has remained a popular and respected figure. She is seen as a symbol of stability and continuity for the British people, and she has been a strong advocate for the Commonwealth of Nations. Elizabeth II's accession to the throne was a momentous event that changed the course of British history. She is a truly remarkable woman, and her legacy will be remembered for generations to come. Elizabeth's accession to the throne was a major event in British history. She was the first female monarch to rule the country since Queen Victoria, and she was also the youngest person to ever become queen. Her reign has been marked by many challenges, but she has remained a popular and respected figure throughout. Her political environment. Queen Elizabeth I was a constitutional monarch, which means that she did not have any direct political power. However, she did have a significant influence on British politics through her weekly meetings with the Prime Minister and her other interactions with government officials. Elizabeth was always careful to remain above party politics, but she did have her own political views. She was a conservative, and she was generally supportive of the policies of the Conservative Party. However, she was also willing to challenge the government when she felt it was necessary. For example, in 1981, Elizabeth refused to consent to the government's plan to introduce a bill that would have made it more difficult for people to divorce. The government eventually dropped the bill. Elizabeth also played a role in mediating political disputes. In 1998, she helped to bring about the Good Friday Agreement, which brought an end to the conflict in Northern Ireland. Elizabeth's political influence was not always direct. She was also a symbol of national unity and stability, and she helped to legitimize the governments at the Saudi. She was a popular and respected figure, and her presence helped to reassure the British people during times of political uncertainty. One of the most famous examples of Elizabeth's political influence was her reaction to the death of Princess Diana in 1997. Diana was a popular figure, and her death caused widespread public grief. Elizabeth was initially criticized for her muted reaction to the death, but she later gave a televised speech in which she expressed her own sadness and paid tribute to Diana.
Now, as your queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness. I admired and respected her for her energy and commitment to others, and especially for her devotion to her two boys. This week at Balmoral, we have all been trying to help William and Harry come to terms with the devastating loss that they and the rest of us have suffered.
The speech was widely praised, and it helped to restore public confidence in the monarchy. Elizabeth I's political side was often subtle and indirect, but it was nonetheless significant. She was a wise and experienced leader, and she played a vital role in British politics for over 70 years. In addition to her political influence, Elizabeth was also a strong advocate for the Commonwealth of Nations. She visited many Commonwealth countries during her reign, and she helped to promote cooperation and understanding between them. She was also a patron of many charities and organizations, and she used her position to raise awareness of important issues such as poverty and disease. Elizabeth I was a remarkable woman who dedicated her life to serving her country and the Commonwealth. She was a symbol of stability and continuity, and she will be remembered as one of the greatest British monarchs of all time. As for the question of who Queen Elizabeth was jealous of, there is no definitive answer. However, there is some speculation that she may have been jealous of Jackie Kennedy, the wife of U.S. President John F. Kennedy. Kennedy was a glamorous and popular figure, and she received a lot of attention from the media. Elizabeth was reportedly annoyed by Kennedy's fawning attention, and she may have felt she was not getting the same level of respect. Of course, this is just speculation. It is also possible that Elizabeth was not jealous of Kennedy at all. She was a very private person, and she may not have been concerned with the attention that Kennedy received. Ultimately, only Elizabeth herself knew how she felt about Jackie Kennedy. Queen Elizabeth I's last days. Queen Elizabeth I passed away peacefully on September 8, 2023, at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. She was 96 years old. The Queen had been in declining health for several months, and she had been forced to cancel a number of public engagements in recent weeks. She had also been hospitalized twice in the past year. In her final days, the Queen was surrounded by her family, including her husband, Prince Philip, who died in April 2022, and her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. She was also visited by her Prime Minister, Liz Truss. The Queen died at 3:10 p.m. local time. Her death was announced by Buckingham Palace, which said that she had peacefully passed away. The Queen's death triggered a period of national mourning in the United Kingdom. Flags were flown at half-mast, and public events were cancelled. The Queen's funeral was held on September 12 at St. Paul's Cathedral in London. It was attended by members of the royal family, world leaders, and thousands of ordinary people. The Queen's death marked the end of an era. She had been the longest reigning British monarch in history, and she had served her country for over 70 years. She was a symbol of stability and continuity for the British people, and her death was a major loss for the country. The Queen's legacy will be long-lasting. She was a wise and compassionate leader who dedicated her life to serving her country. She will be remembered as one of the most important figures in British history. The Queen's death was a significant event in British history. She was a beloved figure who had served her country for over 70 years. Her legacy will be long-lasting, and she will be remembered as one of the most important figures in British history.